Hey, what's going on, guys? Gannon here, back with another episode of the Captain's Chair. This is actually my 99th video. I'm going to upload my 100th, quote-unquote, 100th video after this. Really pumped about that, but let's get into the review. Episode 5, Stardust City Rag, came out last Thursday. The new episode is actually coming out tomorrow night, so yeah, I'm a little bit late on this. What can you do? We're still here. We're making it, we're grinding it out though. This is the second episode, if I'm not mistaken, and the last one in this season that is directed by Jonathan Frakes, who is the actor who played Commander Riker in The Next Gen, who has, by this point, directed at least a handful of Trek episodes. I think the 2 episodes that he directed for Star Trek Picard are my favorite out of all of them that we've seen so far. He directed Absolute Candor, in which we had that awesome scene with Elnor chopping off the Romulan senator's head, and now we have Stardust City Rag, where they go down to like a Las Vegas Strip type area on the planet of Free Cloud. They get to Free Cloud, a bunch of advertisements pop up on their screen before they're allowed to actually beam in and do anything on the actual planet, which is a cool thing to think about. I imagine that a planet that's probably centered around entertainment and like travel would probably have an incentive to kind of like use advertisements, like monetary features like that, you know what I mean? A repair bot projection pops up in front of Captain Rios. It suggests that it knows everything about the Kaplan F-17 speed freighter, which I think implies that that is the actual model that Chris Rios' ship is. So that kind of answered my question about like, why is Chris Rios' ship getting its ass handed to it by an antique Romulan fighter? In the previous episode, it's because it's actually not really like a fighter ship, it's a freighter ship, probably used to carry large amounts of materials to and fro places, not really meant as a fighter or anything. Anyways, they have tracked down Bruce Maddox to Free Cloud. They know that he is there on Free Cloud and that he is being held by this lady that is named Bejazel. At the beginning of the episode, you see a little flashback to 7 of 9 and this character named Egypt. 7 of 9 and Egypt are both characters from Voyager. 7 of 9, like a very huge recurring character in Voyager. Egypt showed up for like an episode or probably like maybe multiple episodes. Guys, I am almost done with season 3 of Voyager. 7 of 9 comes in season 4, and so unfortunately I didn't really value the scenes that we got to see with 7 of 9 in this episode probably as much as I would if I probably would have watched the entirety of Voyager by now. It's the unfortunate consequence of me just not being able to catch up with all the Trek I wanted by the time this show came out. We learned that Bruce Maddox got a loan from this lady named Bejazel. Bejazel's kind of this kingpin who specializes in like stealing ex-Borg and then ripping the very valuable parts out of them and selling that technology off to like people in the underground. She apparently has a lot of money. She's got a lot of mercenaries, around 40 I think they mentioned this episode, in her private contract. One of those is a Beta Inari, a new alien species that they introduced in this episode of Trek, like a huge, giant, really intimidating reptilian species that has very sensitive sensory glands that allows them to like smell or like taste or lick the air and understand like what you ate last night, the last person you kissed or slept with, and whether or not you're lying. His name is Mr. Vup, by the way. Bejazel gave a bunch of money to Bruce Maddox, and then Bruce Maddox's new lab was destroyed by the Tal Shiar. And then Bruce Maddox comes back to Bejazel and is like, I'm not gonna be able to give your money back. Bejazel doesn't seem too upset by that fact until he mentions that his lab was actually ransacked by the Tal Shiar. Bejazel offers him a glass of Tranya. Now, guys, if you don't know what Tranya is, Tranya originates from one of my favorite episodes of the original series, the Corbinite Maneuver. In that episode, Captain Kirk and the Enterprise come in contact with a vessel of the First Federation. I think the vessel was called the Fesarius. Like the home planet of the First Federation is also called Fesarius. Pretty sure that's the case. But anyways, at the end of that episode, Captain Kirk actually goes aboard this small pod vessel of the First Federation after he beats the captain of that vessel in a little bit of an intimidation back and forth game. And you learn that it's just kind of like a small baby man, and he offers Captain Kirk this, like, it looks like orange juice. But yeah, it just looks like orange juice. That's all Tranya is. Really cool that they decided to include it in this episode. The captain of the First Federation ship in the Corbinite Maneuver was named Baylock. Now, the lady in this episode who's like the king pimp is named Bejazel. Baylock, Bejazel. Really kind of similar, goofy names, which leads me to believe that Bejazel originates probably from the First Federation. Kind of the implication that they're going with maybe with the Tron. It's confirmed in this episode that Rafi at some point was actually on some hard drugs and that she had to get clean and recover and rebuild her life, and that she's actually come to Free Cloud to come and interact with her son Gabe. But when she actually goes to do that, Gabe is very resentful of the fact that she still believes in this whole conspiracy, because she was so invested in the conspiracy in his childhood, I assume, that she didn't give him or his father like any attention at all, which probably consequently made it so that their family split up. And then probably with the pressures of all that and then getting kicked out of Starfleet, she went down through the path of substance abuse. So they're definitely trying to paint a theme of like a person struggling with the ghosts that is substance abuse and how that can really fuck up your life and your relationships. And they're using Rafi as a vessel to relay those themes, and I think that's really, really cool and interesting. When they meet, Gabe clearly shows that he has resentment for his mother, and he sends her on her way, but you learn that Gabe actually is married to a Romulan woman, and that they are expecting Rafi's grandchild, and her name is Pell, and it's very cute and it's very awesome. I really like how much spotlight the Romulans are getting in this series, or this season particularly. But anyway, Rafi goes away, she goes back to the ship. At the end, Chris Rios makes a comment about how there's a stowaway on the ship. So Rafi is now back with the crew to like complete the rest of the adventure, which is something that I totally expected to happen. 7 of 9, Chris Rios and Rafi devise this plan to go down and retrieve Bruce Maddox from Bjayzl. Also guys, I think I just realized this week, I think it's a little bit crazy. It's either I just am living under a rock, or people really haven't been super vocal about the fact that Bruce Maddox is actually that dude from the Next Generation episode of Measure of the Man. Like he was the guy who was trying to label Data as property so that he could like forcefully put Data under some experiment that may or maybe not work so that he could like replicate Data's. So that dude is Bruce Maddox. Like the guy that's in this series is like, they're the same dude. It's weird how in your young age you're trying to force a very obviously sentient synthetic life form into some sort of operation without their consent. And now we have this huge contrast where you could really see at the end of this episode that Bruce Maddox finds beauty and accomplishment in the creation of Daj and Soji, which is pretty cool. They go down there, they are put in these flamboyant costumes, and they're basically posing as highly esteemed members of the underground. Chris Rios is really cool in this episode, by the way. I really enjoyed his performance, so to speak. They go down there, they talk to Mr. Vup, and they offer 7 of 9 in exchange for Bruce Maddox to Bjayzl, because Bjayzl has like a personal connection with 7 of 9. We learn later that's something that 7 of 9 keeps from Picard and the rest of the crew. It's really cool. In the conversation that Chris Rios had with Mr. Vup mentions one of my favorite characters in all of Star Trek, who's confirmed to still be alive in this timeline, Quark. He mentioned how they had like a little situation with the Breen, but that's probably something that Rafi just made up or wrote. Still very awesome that they mentioned Mr. Quark of Ferenginar. Anyways, they go down there, and Picard is like, it's really funny. He dresses up and he puts on this corny French accent. I'm pretty sure a lot of the Star Trek boomers are going to have a huge problem with that. I don't know why. The whole joke of Picard is that he's like an Englishman. Like he's very clearly just Patrick Stewart, who's an Englishman talking an English accent, but he's a Frenchman. So the fact that he went down to the planet and talked in a very stereotypical French accent is obviously a joke, and like I'm sure a lot of Star Trek boomers are not gonna laugh at that. They're gonna get a little salty and be like, ugh. But whatever, it was really funny. I enjoyed it. The whole thing is a setup from the start, except when they reveal that it's actually 7 of 9 under the hood, you learn that 7 of 9 had a very personal connection with Bjayzl. They might have even like fucked. I don't know if 7 of 9 is like a little gay or something, but they might have even like fucked in the past or something. Bjayzl used to be posing as a Fenris Ranger so that she could actually use that position to go out and get people like Icheb and 7 of 9 who are very valuable because they were both turned into Borg as children, so they have a lot of Borg technology still inside them. Then 7 of 9 basically grabs Bjayzl and threatens to like seek revenge and murder her right there, but doesn't because she's persuaded not to because it's going to burn Picard. So then they just swoop Bruce Maddox, get out of there, pull him back up to the ship. 7 of 9 has a little talk with Picard, and then they talk about how they're both transformed into Borg, have this little conversation about their humanity, which is pretty deep and moving. 7 of 9 then just beams back down to the planet and then just proceeds to murder everyone. They go onto the ship, kind of push Bruce Maddox into the med bay, and then Picard has this conversation with him, and they talk about Daj and Soji, and then Bruce Maddox actually tells Picard the location of Soji and that she's on the artifact. Picard is like, oh, you mean the artifact cube, the reclaimed Borg cube? Which confirms my suspicions that this Borg cube isn't something super top secret. It's actually like common knowledge, probably among Starfleet and probably like high-ranking people who are like active in space. But anyways, at the end of the episode, Agnes and Bruce Maddox have this little, you know, back and forth on the medic chair, and then, wow, alright guys, I thought Agnes was just some cute, nice lady, but of course she had to go do something like irredeemably stupid. She murders Bruce Maddox, which I don't know like how that's gonna fix anything or help anyone, because Picard already knows the location of Soji, so it seems like Agnes is either like going to have to cover up the fact that Bruce Maddox was killed and just like chill on the Serena and like act as everything going on, and but she's actually like a saboteur. She's just gonna continue to sabotage their mission. This is the first episode where I actually watched like the trailer for the next episode. Like at the end of the episode, they show a little sneak peek for what's to come next. I don't think I saw any clips of Agnes with the rest of the crew on the Serena or in the Borg cube, so they might have that bitch in the fucking brig, dude. Like honestly, I don't know what kind of fate lies in store for Agnes. She seemed like a fun, cute character at first, but no, really, she was swayed by the enemy, obviously, to go and murder Bruce Maddox. The Tal Shiar and the Romulans and this high organization that has beef against synthetics definitely showed her something, probably like the end of the known universe or something. Definitely swayed her and probably engraved her with this prejudice and something to fear about the synthetics. At least enough to kill her former lover, because we learn in this episode that Agnes and Bruce Maddox have a very personal relationship. It's just crazy. I can't even imagine what kind of fates like lies in store, or what kind of information they presented to Agnes to make her do this, because she does seem like a nice and honest character. But anyways, guys, that is going to be my review of the episode. Please let me know what you guys thought about the episode in the comments below. Can't wait to watch the next episode tomorrow night. Hopefully I'll get that review out faster than this one. And if you're enjoying the content you see on the channel, I'd be very flattered if you were to subscribe. And with that, guys, I'm gonna have to see you in the next one.